So I heard you were interested in stealth aircraft, eh? Well, it's your lucky day, because this is the one that started it all. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the F-117 Nighthawk. This is the first ever stealth aircraft, and I mean, just look at this thing, dude. This does not look like a real aircraft. The fact that this is 30 or so years old, it looks like a drawing that a 5-year-old made with a marker on a paper of what a stealth aircraft should look like. The fact that this flies just doesn't make sense. Taking a look inside the cockpit here, honestly, pleasantly surprised at the amount of visibility that you have. These side panels here are ridiculous. That's like a car windshield. Even up front, you're looking pretty good. You are pretty high up. You can see the pilot there in the cockpit up towards the very tip of that top peak of the aircraft. But yeah, lots of room for activities in here. Obviously a single seat jet. I mean, it's just you. Bit lonely in here. Bit scary, not gonna lie, but ideally the enemy's not finding you. So we're gonna go ahead and release the parking brake, and we should start to be able to roll forward here. Off we go. Gonna be taking off from the Groom Lake or Homey Airport here, which is Area 51. It's actually where the first flight of the F-117 took place, so I thought it would make sense here. I can't get over just how sick these windows are. I love it. Go ahead and give her full gas. She isn't necessarily the fastest bird in the cage, but that's okay, because she doesn't need to be fast. She's going to stay off your radar. You're not going to see her coming. She's going to be in and out before you ever even knew she was there, before the bombs even explode. Look at this thing, dude. I love how this thing looks. All right, let's go back in the cockpit. We're gonna take off, hopefully. Yep, nice and slow. We could put our landing gear up. It's like they all fold up into the front. Beautiful. And we are, why does this look like a Star Wars spaceship or something? Look at this, dude. This is insane. Even the inside looks like a spaceship. This is a real plane. This is a real, look at the, oh, we stalled. We stalled. This is not good. Okay, I was getting too many angles. Can we save this? Can I flip her around? Nope, this is not good. We point the nose down. Oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. Come on, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. It's not gonna happen. Angle of attack was a little bit too high there. We're going to pretend like that never happened. Although I'm pretty sure, I was doing research, I don't remember writing this down, but the first two that they made, that ended up happening. Probably not to that extent, but they both crashed. They proved that the prototype was a good idea, so they kept working on it, but they did not survive that process. So yeah, guys, welcome to the F-117 Nighthawk episode. This is the first ever stealth aircraft in the world, ever created by the US at least. I don't know if anybody else had any other ones. Man, this thing really is pretty slow, huh? Can we put our landing gear up? Up they go. Every angle of this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna try not to aim her up too high here as we fly away from Area 51. Who knows what other secrets they're holding out here. And honestly, I've got some interesting facts here you guys are going to love, but let's talk about where this thing came from. So it was manufactured by Lockheed. It was the first ever aircraft developed with stealth technology, and the main point of this thing was, like I said, stay undetected, fly in, a lot of like precision bombing, maybe a little bit of reconnaissance, but it was an attack aircraft towards the ground. It was a ground attack. The project began in 1975, and then 6 years later in 1981 is when the first flight took place from Homey Airport, Groom Lake, Area 51, whatever you want to call it, out here in the Nevada desert. So it was probably a beautiful day just like today, and they decided to take this big, scary, angular behemoth out for its first run. Now this is where it gets really interesting. It first reached operating capability a couple years later in 1983, but the public did not know about it until 1988. That's when they kind of took the blanket off and said, hey, this is what we've been working with for the past 5 years. So think about that, dude. For 5 years, this thing was operating, flying around the world in, battlefield situations, doing whatever it did. We don't know what it did, and literally nobody knew about it. Only a handful of people at the Pentagon knew about it. Like, this was top secret. And it really makes you think, like, there are all kinds of those things all the time. What are we currently working on nowadays? This thing is, 30, 35 years at this point. What kind of technology, what do we have that we don't know about right now? Kind of fascinating to think about. this thing might be one of the coolest looking aircraft I've ever seen. I don't know if she really has the ability to... Okay, she can do this. She's not very stable. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So what makes the design so cool are all of these flat, crazy angles here. You can see every piece of this thing is purely flat, and it's like faceted is what you call it. It's kind of like a diamond. If you look at a diamond, diamonds have all those little flat edges and stuff, and I think diamond was like one of the nicknames or call signs or something at that point, but there's no roundedness on this thing. It is all flat, harsh lines, and the reason for that is to reduce the cross-section for radar, so it's harder to pick up on radar. Now, this is really interesting, and I think it might be one of the most interesting things I read about since I've been doing these flight sim episodes. This whole concept of these flat, angled, faceted areas and reducing the radar signature was actually written about by a Soviet mathematician in 1964. So this idea came from a Soviet mathematician. He published it in his journal. Naturally, in our quest for the ultimate wartime weapons, as we're always looking to push the boundaries, we thought, hey, if this concept works and it can be, supersized to the size of an airplane, why not try this concept of using all these faceted angles and things to make an aircraft undetectable? Like, it makes sense, right? Well, the problem is, it doesn't really fly well. We already fell out of the air once here today. I mean, going straight, she seems to be doing okay here. Dude, this is so crazy. Like, think about how badass you would feel in this thing. Just cruising along. Oh, I'm gonna bomb that. Boom. Oh, over there. We can go bomb that too. Let's go bomb that over there. Up here by yourself, nobody knowing where you're at. You're just a ghost in the sky. That's pretty cool. But yeah, obviously, I mean, this doesn't look like an airplane. This is not directing air in the right ways that you would think of for an airplane. Like, this looks like a child's toy that would fall out of the sky. And that's precisely it. It didn't fly. We tried back in the 60s. Like I said, there were a couple of crashes and things like that. So yeah, we had this great idea. We wanted to build this thing that couldn't be detected by radar, but we couldn't make it fly. It wasn't good enough to fly, but you could overcome that with technology and with computers and with computing and having, computers on board to manipulate things, whatever. I'm not an expert, but basically back in the 60s, our computers were not strong enough. We could not make something like this work. However, in the 1970s, a Lockheed analyst came across this research paper that the Soviet mathematician posted, and he's like, I think we can make this work. I think computers have, advanced far enough that they're smart enough now, they can do enough computations that we can keep this thing in the air, and that's ultimately where this thing came from. So that's just wild. The whole stealth aircraft era and this first iteration of it all came from a Soviet mathematician's published notebook. Like that's just crazy to think about. So yeah, every angle of this thing is harsh, it's flat, it's meant to deflect radar waves, so you can't really detect it. I think it's like 0.001 square meters is what this thing shows up as on radar. So it like smaller than a bird or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it is a very, very tiny little thing. And back in the day, you absolutely could not detect it. I'm sure they could today with the technology up today. But yeah, it was angled for that reason. It had like these really interesting exhaust ports you can see here. That was to hopefully reduce and mitigate the hot air that could be detected on like thermal cameras and things like that. It didn't have radar capabilities itself because I guess radar can detect other radar, so you're kind of flying blind up here. And it's also not very fast for a jet. It goes 623 miles an hour, and the reason for that is you don't want to break the sound barrier. You don't want to go above Mach 1 because that's going to put you on the radar and people are going to hear that, as well as I guess afterburner is really detectable on radar as well. So this thing is kind of a big, slow, not that great at flying jet, but it's going to sneak up on you and you're never going to know it was there. I just love looking at this. Look at all these like little lines and seams and things. Obviously these panels, like they don't only deflect, they also absorb. So the material they were made out of was super, super heavy. This thing it's really not meant to fly. It really truly isn't, but through the magic of computers and technology and everything else, they were able to make it work. I just love the look of this thing, dude. This is so cool. I believe we have working bomb doors, CMPTR. I'm imagining it's going to be some sort of like a switch or something, or like covered, you like flip some sort of a flip up and then you open them up. Canopy eject, we don't want to do that. It's got to be something maybe close to the throttle, APU, EPU, brakes. That's your emergency gear handle. Bay doors right here. Master arm. That's not clickable. This is a mod, by the way. It's not like an official plane. So we've got left open and then left bay door and then right open and then right. We didn't open those yet, did we? I want to get it to left open. Oh, there we go. Left open. Oh, that's sick. Okay. Then we've got right open. Can they not be open at the same time? Interesting. This is where you would have your bombs at. If I go all the way to right, will it drop anything? It won't drop anything. See, that's interesting. That's something I never would have known unless we were here in the sim. You can't really do both at the same time unless, oh, what's on the bottom? I'm going to go right and then click jettison. I don't think we actually have any working bombs like we did on the new version we did a few months ago. Yeah, this thing is sick. We are way up here, huh? Let's head back down here. I mean, this is kind of the area where I think this thing would thrive, way up here above the clouds where you could never see it. But we're going to head back down and we're going to see if we can do a little bit of low flying through the desert. So yeah, the F-117 has been around since like the 80s. She's been in pretty much every conflict that we've dealt with. Panama, Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, all over the place, being a very critical part of, you know, going over enemy lines, doing bombing runs, collecting information, things like that. Unfortunately, she's not being used anymore. She was retired in 2008. You'll still see her at like air shows and she's used for training and things like that. But it was mainly retired due to the F-22 Raptor, the best jet of all time. So she, you know, obviously played her role, but she was a little bit big, a little bit slow. And as technology has progressed, this older form of stealth tech just kind of went to the wayside. It's just not quite as good. Look at this thing cruising over the mountains. I really hope we don't hit a mountain. We're close here, but we're good to go. Oh my goodness. If you saw this thing coming, I would think it was aliens for sure. There's a reason why Area 51, they think there's aliens. Now for some random and fun facts, this is one of the jets and pieces of military equipment that was never exported outside of the U.S. You know, some of the other jets, F-22s, F-35s, F-4 Phantoms, whatever else, we'll sell those to other countries and allies and things like that. We won't with stuff like this. Obviously, you know, the technology, especially at the time, was considered such a highly classified, you know, just kind of like an asset that we didn't want other countries to be able to have. So this is only ever flown for the U.S. Now, saying that, one was shot down in the Yugoslavian conflict back in 1999. It was shot down by a SAM, a surface-to-air missile, which I'm kind of surprised by. I feel like, you know, considering this thing's supposed to be all hoity-toity, counter radar, can't be detected type thing, for a, you know, an unmanned thing to be able to find it and shoot it down is a little disappointing. You let us down there a little bit, bud. But yeah, it was shot down. The pilot was able to eject. He was saved. We sent in paratroopers and saved him and got him back home. But the plane obviously crashed. And at that point, it was considered so old, which is crazy because it had only been like 20 years old at that point. It was considered so old that it wasn't worth scuttling. It wasn't worth, you know, bombing it or trying to destroy it so that other people couldn't get their hands on it. So they believed that China and Russia ended up finding the wreckage and you know, being able to take the technology. But again, at the time, the U.S. had said, it's fine. That's old tech at this point. It's only 20 years old. It's crazy how quickly things can change. And the last little tidbit I have for you guys, I don't want to throw shade on the Nighthawk, but it is kind of funny, and it's honestly just very American. You know how this thing had been in operation for, you know, 5-6 years before it was announced to the public, and then it came out, and I'm sure, I mean, I wasn't there at that time, but I'm sure there was a lot of hoopla about how, you know, the USA had this great stealth plane. They claimed that this thing was like cream of the crop. Again, it was mainly for precision bombing, and they claim that the F-117s hit their target over 80% of the time. It was this beastly, just like, it didn't miss. You know, at the time, other bombers and stuff were half that accuracy or less. So they were saying this was like this super weapon that couldn't be detected, didn't miss its target, hit it every time. As it turns out, they later came out and said, hey, it was really only about 40 to 60% of the time. And if they're saying that, I'm probably going to lean more towards the 40. I thought that was really funny that we're coming out saying how amazing this thing is. And it was good. It definitely was good. And it's the first ever stealth aircraft. So you got to give credit where credit's due, but it was not hitting the target 80% of the time good, and there's a big difference there. What airfield is this over here? Amagorza. Don't really know what Amagorza is. It's 10.5 nautical miles away. I'm trying to see what angle the runway is. We should be able to bring up our map, right? K-Par. We'll land there. It looks like it runs this way, so we're gonna do a little go around. I kind of like trying to land them sometimes. I am a little bit worried about bleeding off the speed here, though. You know, again, this thing isn't... Oh, there's another airstrip off to our right. Pahrump Airport. We've got some interesting names here. I think that might be a dirt field. Is that the runway or is this? But yeah, I'm worried about trying to land this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put our gear down here. Beautiful. That's so cool. I don't know what my obsession with landing gear is, but I love it. Again, it's not really supposed to fly. It's flying with the help of these supercomputers and stuff on board, so I don't know how much speed we can lose before it says, hey, I'm a rock falling out of the sky. I feel like we're just gonna hit a point and it's just gonna drop. I think we might have lost it. I think we might have... We're really floating down slow. Oh, boy. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, yep, she's slow. These engines are, you know, for a jet, not very good. This is probably about the strongest angle of attack that we're gonna want here. I mean, we could just land it. Let's just land it in this street. I'm gonna land it inside too. We'll see how this works. Because that one looks like it's just a dirt field too. So we're gonna say this is an emergency landing behind enemy lines. At least they don't know we're here. And hopefully they're gonna send us some help sometime soon. Oh, we're coming in. Wait. Bop! Bop! Oh my God. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Peace out.